Hi guys. Okay, for this video, I'm going to be covering two worksheets. One is this one, the diagrams. Can I please have you go into Google Classroom, open the document with all of the scanned worksheets that I've collected, and then after that, look for your own one. So you need to know where you went wrong. Feel free to pause first for you to see where your mistakes are, find out what you did wrong before we go through this video. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to highlight is in this class of 20, I think 25 or 26 students. This scan, if you look through the pages, I think total there's only 16 pages. I know Sining's one is currently in my locker, and I think Sarvika one is the one that she messaged me about. Okay, with that, that means what, 18? But our class has got 20 plus. So that means there's about 7 to 8 of you who have not submitted your work. Okay, now I understand that everybody is busy, right? You all have your other responsibilities, your counsel and whatnots. But I'm starting to see a slide that I don't think is good in terms of character. When it comes to your work submission, it has to be timely. Remember, I'm not just teaching you guys, I'm also teaching your graduating seniors. So mark time has to be divided. It has to be fair. Otherwise, my priority will go to them. Then you'll be at a loss, those of you who submit your work late. Then you just won't get your feedback. Okay? Also, if say for example, there are other lessons going on, work is not meant to be done during that time. Yeah, you know who you are. Okay, the idea behind this is when there's work given to you, my intent is never for you to rush through any piece of work. I don't give ridiculous amount of worksheets all at one shot. Okay, I don't give like the 100-question kind of homework. Okay, but the work that I give is intended to be well paced. Meaning, any worksheet that I give, take some time, revise a bit first, then after that, attempt the worksheet close book. All my worksheets are always like that. Okay, so again, don't take for granted that, well, the work seems quite relatively well paced, then you just take it for granted, shift it aside until the last minute that you do. That's not how it's meant to be. Okay, so going forward, right now we are talking about exam skills, right? Your TA3 is coming up, your year end is going to come up really soon. Okay, so what I want to focus on is a bit more exam skills. So whether it be about the essays, now that we are not just into learning how to write essays, but into the full swing of how to be graded for essays, let's go into other types of exam questions as well. Okay, so starting off, there's these 5 things that I want you guys to be familiar with. No, sorry, 6 things. Whenever you're interpreting an exam question, and also just nice, the reason why I use Tarani's one at the front, so that I can use her exam question. Okay, so the 6 things, and I'm pretty sure any of your lower sec geography teachers will have also emphasized the same things. I know I have, but this is just to put this into practice, and I would like you to please write them down. There's 6 things for you to copy down. This is what are the things you do when you're interpreting an exam question. Okay, first one is something that you should be familiar with, command word. Okay, what is the command word? This command word determines how much to write per point, what level of detail you should be providing. Okay. Second one is for you to be aware of the topic. What content is this topic going to come from? If you recall something that I mentioned in Sem 1, for geography, while it's very logical, that's the lovely thing about our subject, is everything is actually very logical. The thing is, we also don't want just logic to just be written, like, oh yeah, the other day I got to do something like that, then I just write. It has to be based on technical concepts. Say, for example, you're talking about, the negative thing about how people get affected by nature. We're looking at human-wildlife interactions because of things such as animals feeling that they're threatened when they enter their territory. So things like that. So they want technical terms, which is something that you can learn from, nothing different here, from the textbook, right? So you need to know what topic this comes from first. Third one is the scope, right? We're not going to ask you everything under the sun. Sometimes we may ask you just what's the limitation, or we may ask you explain how it leads to sustainability. If you remember your TA1, there's one such question like this that killed quite a lot of you. You're not talking about how people enjoy oxygen, but how does that lead to sustainable development or something like that? Yeah. Fourth question for you to think about is, do you need evidence and examples? And I put a question mark here because not every single question will need this. Okay. Last question, second last question is how many points to write? Right? Do you write a lot of points? Do you write 4? Do you write 2? For a 4-mark question, how many impacts do you write? Is there the word and that splits the question into 2? So there's describe something and explain something. So the 4 marks is divided. Then last one, after you have planned everything, look, did you answer the question? Right? So the planning stage, and this is something that I'm drilling your seniors with every single day now. Okay, the planning stage for each question takes about 1 to 1.5 minutes. It cannot be something that you rush. You need to plan first, annotate on the question itself, because this will determine how to get the marks. Otherwise, people are throwing away marks unnecessarily. I think for those of you who have started watching through or scanning through your own worksheets, and even seeing how other people have gotten their marks, you will see that quite a lot of them have lost marks unnecessarily, right? Because they didn't interpret the question carefully. Okay, so this is what we're going to get started off on. Let's see, with the aid of an annotated diagram, explain how plate movements occur and result in slab pull. Okay, so this is a 5-mark question. First thing for you to look out for, explain. In specifically, explain how. So they're asking for details of the process. Let me zoom in. Details of the process. Right, command word. Second, plate movements and slab pull. So what topic is this? This is under plate tectonic. Topic 1.1 and 1.2. Both plate movements, slab pull is in 1.2. Okay? No, 1.2 is the mid-oceanic ridge. So it's just 1.1 only. All the more easier. Only topic 1.1. Okay. Thing. What are they looking out for that is unique to this question? The question is not literally explain what it is you've memorized from topic 1.1 and then you blur everything out, right? So they're asking for certain specific things. In this case, they're using an annotated diagram. Okay. Explain how. So they're looking for process. So these are the two things that are specific about this question. Right? They're asking you for something specific about this 1.1 topic. Yeah. So fourth thing, do you need any evidence in this case? No. There's no reference for you to, no source for you to refer to. Is there any need for example, like name of places and stuff like that? The question didn't ask for it, so don't need. Fifth question, how to divide your marks? How many points to write? You can see here total, there are 5 marks. Okay, this is not a light question. They're asking for pretty heavy, but they're not asking for everything under the sun either. I mean, they're not asking like a 25-mark question, right? So what are the things for you to include? What are the things for you not to include? For sure, you need an annotated diagram. At least 1 mark is set aside for the diagram. And if you're wondering, what really, for all the effort, I draw like a freaking artist and I only get 1 mark? And the answer is, yep. Diagram usually is just 1 mark. Okay, so don't waste your time unnecessarily. Draw to the extent where people can understand, good enough, move on. Okay. Then, is there the word and? Yes. So it splits this question up. So this remaining 4 marks is divided into plate movements and resulting in slab pull. How will it be divided? That's up to the examiner. Safe to assume either 2-2 or 3-1 or 1-3, whatever it is, it has to be divided. There's no way that something can be left without a mark. In this case, how is it being marked? Plate movements is 3 marks worth. Slab pull process is 1 mark worth. Total 5 marks. Then, after I'm done, I scan through one more time. Did I answer the question? Do I know what I want to talk about? So plate movements, topic 1.1, I'm going to talk about convection current. Slab pull, I'm going to talk about the density and I'm going to talk about gravity. Okay. Sorry, my voice sounds very sinusy. Yeah, I'm right now not feeling too well. Okay, so then let's take a look at what are the responses and where the marks actually go to. Okay, you'll be surprised, huh? It's not everything that is being drawn here that gets a mark. Okay, for sure. For the diagram, one thing that is needed is you're going to need the core, mantle, and the crust. Core must be drawn in, mantle must be drawn in, crust must be drawn in for you to get the mark. Okay, you must have the 3 layers, must draw, must be able to differentiate them. Okay, I would like to see the convection current must be drawn in. You don't need to label the convection current because you will be annotating all around it. And I would like to see the subduction taking place because you are eventually going to be talking about subduction. I didn't penalize in Tarani's case because the subduction mark was lost for the later on. Okay, so I'll pause here for you to record what you need to record down. For sure, you need the structure of the planet, the 3 layers. I need to see the convection current drawn arrows. And I would like to see the subduction taking place at the crust because that is the emphasis for this question. Okay, second part. Then we go into the annotation. So this is already 1 mark, right? The diagram mark is already given. Total, there'll be 4 marks for annotation. You can take a look at the marks that's being distributed here, right? Here got 1, here got point number 2. Is that point number 3? How do you end up with 4 marks? There, point number 3, missing point number 4. Okay. So what do I mean by point number 1? Point number 1, I'm expecting to see. And again, this is a lot of things that's written. Not everything will get you the mark, but I'm going to highlight to you what did get Tarani the mark. Okay. First one, heat from the core. Without heat from the core, nothing can drive the thing. Okay. Mental material, heats up mental material, it becomes less dense and rise. Even without less dense, right, I'm okay. The minimum requirement is it gets heated up and it will rise. Okay, but her answer is a bit more well-rounded for this point number 1. Okay, annotation, of course, it has to be pointed to where you are supposed to talk about the rise. Here lah. Actually, supposed to be here lah. Better here lah, you know. Rather than you point to the part where, you know, rising ma. Okay, so this is point number 1. Point number 2 is talking about the fact that after it rises, it will spread and it will pull the plates along. So let's see here. Okay, as the mental material rises, let me highlight. Mental material rises, it spreads out beneath the crust, and then it will cause the plates to move. Okay, whether it's away or not, I'm not giving the mark, because away means divergent, right? In this case, my question is not really asking about divergent. I'm asking more about convergent. So the part that matters to me is, actually the word could be better put out here, is besides just causing, dragging the plates to move. Dragging the plates away from each other, causing the plates to move. Okay? Or pulling the plates, or whatever it is. Remember, we used those vocab terms the other day. Okay, so this is point number 2. And again, point number 2, the drawing, annotation should be at the correct place. In this case, unfortunately, I didn't penalize for this, but Tarani, I do want to highlight to you, this one, the arrow should be drawn here, right? Where the arrow is right underneath the earth surface. Okay? Your annotation is to say, is near the earth surface, pulling that. You point to there, that side is the core. You cannot pull the core. Okay. Point number 2. Point number 3. Due to the large surface area being further from the core, mental material lose heat and sinks, repeating the process again. Now this one, unfortunately, I find not the best answer. I want to look through another student's response for point number 3. Point number 1 and 2, I hope you guys are okay. If otherwise, please pause. Okay. Point number 3. Yeah, they're well written, but I don't want to use because it's not annotated with it. Okay, here, let's use Erica's one. Erica, well done. You're on fire. The other worksheet also you did quite well. Okay, so anyway, so you see here her point number 3. So just now I already talked about the plate dragging, right? Because of the convection current. So now the focus is on the convergent side of it. So convergent plate movement occurs where the convection currents collide as the mental material lose heat and sinks. Okay, both of this together gets you point number 3. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. You can take a look at the diagram that Erica drew. Or maybe I zoom in so it's easier for you to see. See the diagram that Erica drew. She drew half a planet, a third of a planet, the top one, something like that. But it's sufficient for me to be able to see that there's a core, mantle, and crust. The convection current is present, and I can see the subduction happening. Okay, so point number 3 is already awarded. Diagram is also awarded. Okay, are we okay for me to move on to the last one? The last one is, unfortunately, Erica also lost a point when it comes to the slab pool itself. Let's zoom out, look for someone else. There. Don't want. This here is 2 diagrams. Oh, speaking of, something for all of us to learn from. Remember the question? It says with the aid of an annotated diagram. That's why he didn't get the mark for diagram because he gave 2, right? So yeah, we are very stickler for this. So please make sure you look out for the instructions carefully, okay? Point number 4. Did she get point number 4? Did Trishu get point number 4? There you go. Okay, for point number 4, Trishu. Okay, well done. He was able to bring up the fact that denser plate subducting. Okay, Gravity continues to pull the rest of the plate down. This is his point number 4. Okay, some of you are giving me elaborated answers, very well written, but the concepts are flipped. What do I mean by concepts are flipped? And I want you to pay close attention. You may be one of those who made this mistake, and it's very common. About half the people who submitted did this error. Okay, what I mean by this is people who end up writing density, denser plate, that's due to gravity. Actually, it doesn't work as such. Actually, it subducts not because of gravity. It subducts because the other one is less dense. I know gravity pulls everything down, but the why it subducts is because it is less dense than the other one. So I'd like for those of you who made this mistake, please make sure you carefully cancel out this portion. Subduct underneath the less dense plate. Then, but it's not done yet. If you just stop here, you're just talking about subduction. You're not explaining slack pull. Then gravity, okay, continues to pull the rest of the plate down with it. Do you need to use this exact expression? No. Okay, of course, you can use something else if, say, you want to talk about how the weight of the earth itself is, the weight of the slab of rock itself is being pulled due to gravity as it subducts and it continues onwards. Then, as long as the concepts itself are clear. So what are the concepts here? Denser plate subduct underneath less dense, gravity pulling the rest of the plate. Those are the key concepts that should be included within point number 4. Okay, in all, when you include all the diagrams together with the points within the diagram, together with the annotations for points 1 to 4, that's how you get the 5-mark question. Okay, so get used to that. The 6 things to do to interpret an exam question. We'll be doing it as a drill as regularly as possible between now to your end of year exam. Okay, so this is that portion as we go through for this diagram. Unfortunately, right, a lot of you lost marks because what you did this. So in this case, did not bad because he annotated finish. Then he still went to explain later on. No need lah. Okay, annotated means you annotate within, I'm fine. Those of you who didn't, you end up writing a lot outside. I still give you, I look out for where the points are. It looks like you have all the points. But because it wasn't annotated, you end up with only 1 mark. Right? Because only 1 point eventually was annotated inside. Yeah. So please be careful. Read question carefully so you don't lose out unnecessarily. So this is the first worksheet, the one that is done on Kami, the one that is in your PDF. Okay, later on I'll be giving you a different practice. Take a look, read out for the next instruction. Okay, then let's move on to the second thing that I'd like to do for today, which is a physical worksheet that you would have received. Just now, Mr. Hyra would have passed this to one of you, and I hope all of you are looking on to your physical worksheet by now. I want to talk about this given factor paragraph writing. Okay, managed to take it out already. So for this worksheet, right, the instruction that's given to you was, I would like you to please write an essay paragraph. Now, the exam question was fairly straightforward, right? It was asking you when humans benefit from ecosystem services, they also is like cultural service is the most important one or something like that. Okay, then you end up writing about cultural services, and everybody in the class either end up between level 0 at most level 2. Okay, the few people level 2 I still remember. I think it's Jasin, Erica, Bhavik, and Sherry submitted late. You have seen in the scan upload here as well in this Google Classroom post. Sherry. Other than that, everybody is either getting between level 1 to level 2, or majority of you are getting between level 0 to level 1. Why is that the case? Even for the people who got level 2, right? There's a reason why they didn't end up getting level 3. Because the main E+ is missing. Okay, that applies for almost all of you. So let's take a look at this question. Okay, first one, if you take a look at what's being written here, this is an example. Yeah, I assembled some of the paragraphs and I put them together into one as a common error that people tend to give. First one, cultural ecosystem refers to intangible benefit people obtain from ecosystems. Not wrong, right? It is intangible, right? But intangible, it doesn't just refer to cultural ones, right? You imagine there are others. There is provisioning services, cultural services, regulating services, and supporting services. Except for provisioning. What else is tangible? Provisioning, tangible means you can touch. Okay, just in case you're not sure, tangible means can touch, can feel. So you can touch the physical resources, the wood, the food, the whatever it is. But what else? Oh, but everything else you cannot touch. How can you the forest help us to manage climate change? How you touch it? So everything else is actually intangible. So I'm looking for when you're introducing, right, the fact that aesthetic comes in first. The fact that recreational already is mentioned at the very start, because that gives you a better introduction. That's it, huh? Please don't think that essay means if you don't have the P right at the very start, right, that's it. You can never ever do well. Then might as well not ever attempt. No lah. As an examiner, I'll read through the whole thing, and if I can see you understand what kind of intangible products there are, I still give it to you. Okay, in this case, this student did end up mentioning aesthetic later on. So I'm okay with it. Okay, then let's take a look at the next point. One way this can be achieved. So we see this, right? This looks like it's going to be the start of an E+. But let's see, one way is through the presence of green spaces, which can, then you can see, it can provide aesthetic appreciation for stress relieving activities, improve on physical, mental well-being, foster social belonging, group identity. These are all the L's. There's like multiple L here. Okay, so the only E+ in this case is just presence of green spaces. Do you think that's sufficient? Right? From here, and most of you will have gotten this feedback. Where's the ecosystem service in this? Remember, the whole question is when people benefit from ecosystem services. Right? I'm not denying green spaces is where ecosystem service exists. But where is it? Okay, so in this case, I'm expecting to see, for example, people saying that, oh, the presence of green spaces where plants grow and add to the greenery. Right? Maybe not even green spaces, maybe natural spaces where plants grow and add to the greenery, creating a natural environment for activities that can provide aesthetic appreciation and opportunities for stress relieving activities. Right? At least here, when I put here, where plants grow, this is an evident process of an ecosystem service. Adding to the greenery, when they grow, they add the green leaves to it. Right? So these are the kind of things that is needed in order for you to get the E+, which, and I can say this for all of you, nobody got a mark for that. Yeah, because the E+ was not clear. I know you're using the textbook for reference, and I know that you're elaborating very well for your L, but I need to know what the action actually is, what's the actual cultural service you gain from the ecosystem service, right? So without it, I can't give you that much. Okay, second one, let's move on. Okay, let's take a look. Maybe I change the color a bit, so it's something that's a bit easier for you to see, a bit differentiation here. Purple rules. This allows people to improve on their physical and mental well-being and foster group belonging, social belonging and group identity. I think this one was based on Sining's work, largely. Okay, but nevertheless, I want to take a look at what was being written. Not bad, right? She can use her English terms very well. But conceptually, does that show strong links? This is where we can all learn from. Okay, again, not judging. It's just for all of us to learn from this. Okay, so aesthetic appreciation and opportunity for stress relieving activities. This opportunity for stress relieving, right, is repeated later on when they improve on your physical and mental well-being through recreational activities. Right? This is the concept that would have otherwise been clearer. Then when you see this, oh yeah, okay, yes, I get it. This is where you get recreation, sure. Yeah. So this is 1L. Would have been clearer if you have phrased in the purple way. Okay, then after that, moving on. Foster group belonging, group identity. People gather to this place, strengthening their sense of place. I would say this one as a link is a good attempt, but I won't necessarily see this as cultural service yet, unless you can tell me what is this group identity that you're referring to, right? as groups volunteer, as groups go hiking together. At the moment, at least based on what I'm reading, I can't tell why suddenly got group identity. Yeah, why suddenly got sense of belonging just because there is a tree there, there's a green space there, suddenly got sense of belonging, right? It could be clearer. Okay. Next one, let's move on to the next sentence. Okay, stop by bragging on just this one sentence. Let's move on to the next one. For example, the Bukit Timah Nature Reserve. Okay, so this is a name of place. Sure. Okay, for people to engage in recreational activities. So you can see here recreational activities end up being here. If you remember, this is one of the area for improvement in the previous worksheet, the previous essay writing paragraphs. You end up writing about the what that time was the activities that you can do, community activities you can do. Then later on use the what people's association example where you can actually say what kind of activities is being organized for them. Right? So the points are being separated out. But for what reason I don't know. You imagine if you're an examiner, you're reading like then later oh why lead to that confusion? Why not just give one argument at a time? Okay, please I remind you one time, don't be bound by the textbook. Don't just think you have to use the exact same phrasing. Otherwise, everybody would do well for this. You just memorize the textbook. Figure out a way. Go for those he guru and all those weird things that can improve your memory. And then after that, you just memorize the whole textbook. It doesn't help. You need to structure your argument in a clear manner. Okay? So, activities such as, and this relevant fact that I'm giving for is hiking and educational activities when they do field work. Then I give it as an EG+. Maybe, and maybe Sini can also benefit from this. Here, you can talk about the group identity. Then it will be a relevant link. But she didn't. She did something else that's even more relevant, which is education and exposure to nature, inspire creativity, blah, blah, blah. So this is a relevant elaboration to the example. May not need to be this elaborate, but yeah, at least she did use the example. Okay. Then last one, you can see here, she's already starting to give an E minus. However, so from this point onwards, I'm guessing this will be negative. Sure. However, as time progresses, the population of people will increase, more areas will be urbanized, reducing the number of natural spaces for people to enjoy. Okay, and I think this is perfectly fine. Okay, there are also other good E minus. You realize in your textbook, there's nothing about E minus here, right? So there are other people who have attempted to give interesting E minuses, which are equally valid. Again, it's an opportunity for you to flex your conceptual understanding. For example, cultural service means more human-wildlife interaction, which may result in more harm to the people who are visiting. I can't remember whether this is between Bhavik or Erica. See, Erica, not bad. So either one provided this example, which I thought was quite good. The other one gave the idea of deforestation and habitat loss, which is similar to what was being mentioned earlier. There was one more. I feel like I recently read this. Talking about no, I can't recall offhand. Okay, never mind. It's okay. There was one more good response as well for an E minus. Okay, in this case, however, the question, it says benefits, right? When people benefit from. So actually, no E minus, you would have also been able to get the mark. But I'm looking for multiple E pluses. Remember, more than one argument. So not just talking about maybe when plants grow, maybe talk about something else as well. Okay. Oh, I understand. The cultural service, there's one more. This student was writing about the fact that not everyone benefits from recreation at natural spaces. And some people's interests lie elsewhere. Hence, they won't benefit from it. Yeah, which I thought was quite clever. Yeah. Oh, I know. I remember. I read this in the evaluation paragraph, right? We did one evaluation practice. Yeah, so that's how I remembered this. But yeah, anyway, so these are some of the possible options. Feel free to rewind back to see where the mistakes are. I know for a fact everybody made this mistake. Some of you made the mistake of just giving me example without relevant details. Some of you gave me example with details, but it wasn't used. And some of you gave E minuses that are not very strong. And that means without the E plus, right? Because the E plus itself is missing, right? Because this point that is missing, that's over here. So without the E plus and no E minus, that means there's no firm, solid argument for me to give you mark on. Therefore, you scored pretty poorly. Okay, so the assignment that I want to give you for today's activity that you must finish in class is this is the given factor. I want you to write an other factor. Use on foolscap paper, I want you to write down what's the other factor, and I want you to staple to this. Okay? I'll be collecting to mark worksheet 2.2a. Now I'm giving you a part 2. Write the OF paragraph on foolscap paper. Okay, so that's that. See you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, I'm going to send my kids to the doctor. I'm going to get myself some medicine as well. So hopefully I'll get to keep this by today. All right, see you guys.